Welcome to the Nintendo PowerZone Book Club. This is a new series that is going to be dedicated to covering books that have a primary focus on Nintendo and its characters. We will also include books that cover third-party titles as long as those titles have been on a Nintendo console. We are also allowing the inclusion of graphic novels and art books. In this series, I wish to analyze the contents of these books and determine whether or not they assist in the preservation of video game history, have a strong entertainment value, and find out whether or not these are essential books for Nintendo fans. In our first episode, we have the recently released Playing with Power from Prima Games. It comes in either hardcover or paperback. This book somewhat functions as a companion to the recently released NES Classic, but it only covers 17 of the titles released, the ones made solely by Nintendo themselves or by their second-party developers. So not a complete companion, but definitely an awesome collection of games. Let's start with the covers. As I previously stated, the book came out in both hard and soft cover editions. The more sought-after version will definitely be the hardcover edition, which is beautifully designed to replicate an NES cartridge. The hardcover edition is just straight amazing. The softcover edition, which is the version I bought, is a lot more understated, but has a beauty in its own right, evoking Nintendo Power magazine by literally using the font on the Classic Gaming Mag's cover, while showing the box art for 17 of the classic titles featured in the book. So let's go ahead and flip the book over and let's take a look at the summary of the book. The system that started it all. Take a nostalgic look back on 17 NES classics, including Donkey Kong, Super Mario Bros. 3, and The Legend of Zelda. Get a glimpse behind the scenes with Shigeru Miyamoto, and embark on a journey through 3 legendary periods of video game history featuring a showcase of vintage excerpts from Nintendo Power magazine, plus maps, character art, and extras. This is a must-have for all Nintendo fans. So let's talk about the contents of the book now. The book ties together original articles, a behind-the-scenes with Mario creator Shigeru Miyamoto, strategy guides, and excerpts from Nintendo Power magazine, all while featuring original art from the 17 games featured. Playing with Power opens with a foreword by Nintendo's own Don James as he reminisces about Nintendo of America's launching of the original NES in the United States. He closes by expressing excitement about the impending release of the NES Classic. From there, the book is actually broken down into 4 periods, not 3 as previously stated by the book's synopsis. We start with the launch, which covers games featured in the initial launch lineup of the NES. It then moves on to the early period covering games from 1986, the middle period which covers the games from 1987 through 1989, and the late period which covers the games from 1990 through 1994. Intermixed in these periods are guides and original art that cover the 17 titles featured within the pages of Playing with Power and a few other featurettes. The guides are actually pretty helpful. Whereas I am a veteran gamer who spent the majority of his childhood immersed in these titles, I realized that this book is truly designed to be a companion to the NES Classic, which itself is designed to bring back gamers who have aged out, lapsed, or have feelings of nostalgia that they may want to share with their children. Playing with Power is for those people, to help them remember, or to help them share the experience with their own children. Also, I should note that before every guide featured in Playing with Power, the reader is treated to the summaries of each of the games. But not just any summary, the summaries featured are from the game's original instruction manual. This was one of the best parts of the book because as a child, I poured hours into reading those instruction manuals before I even started the game, and even after I had, I would spend hours more going over every fine detail of the instruction manual so that I could master every game. I especially enjoyed getting to reread the classic summary for The Legend of Zelda 2. One place where I feel the book falls short though is a behind the scenes with Miyamoto, a 2-page spread on the development of Super Mario Bros. 3 that doesn't really offer any new insight to the game or its development that hasn't already been heard in an Iwata-ass column. Playing with Power closes out the book with a look at the many peripherals that grace the original NES, showcasing Rob the Robot, the NES Zapper, and even the Power Pad. Conspicuously missing, however, is the Power Glove, Mattel's ill-fated motion controller for the NES. Playing with Power crams a lot of great content into its 318 pages. So let's go ahead and move on to our grading. Moving on to the grading portion of this book club review. This is a little bit different from how we do the grading on unboxing. Definitely not the same as score time, but it is something that is more important because we have 3 categories here in which I believe are the best ways to determine whether or not a book is worth owning. So the first category is does the book assist in the preservation of video game history? Because Playing with Power functions as a companion to the NES Classic, the book features things like maps and walkthroughs. Not only that, but there's original art from the 17th featured game, and the book features summaries from the game's original instruction manuals. So yes, this book does assist in the preservation of video game history, but this is a byproduct of the fact that the NES Classic goes a long way into that preservation itself, and if not for the console, the book would not exist. Because of that reason, the book gets an 8. Moving on to our second category, does the book have a strong entertainment value? Had Playing with Power been dedicated solely to walkthroughs and map layouts, I would deem its entertainment value close to none, as the enjoyment you receive from the book comes not from the book itself, but from the games that the book covers, and since Prima is a company designed to make strategy guides, the book could have easily become just that. Instead, Prima went the extra mile with original articles, classic excerpts from Nintendo Power magazine, and wrapped them around those guides, which greatly increases the entertainment value of the book. In this category, I give the book a 7. Moving on to our final category, is this an essential game for any Nintendo fan? I find this last category tricky for this book in particular, because it's a matter of have versus have not. Do you have an NES Classic? Or do you have a functioning original NES and the majority of the 17 titles featured in this book? Because if you do, then yes, this book is a must-have for your coffee table or bookshelf. But if you don't, then this book may not hold the same value as it would to somebody who does. As I am one of the fortunate few who do own an NES Classic, I say yes, this is definitely essential. But for this category, based on the conflicting nature of have versus have not, I have to score it a 6.5. Because it only matters to a select few right now. Unless the NES Classic gets a massive release anytime in the near future, I can't give this a higher score than that. I find it hard to believe that a book can be so closely tied to whether or not one owns a console, but in this case, it's 100% true. If you don't own an NES Classic, then I just can't recommend this book wholeheartedly. That's why I give this category a 6.5. Again, it's the have versus the have not. Okay guys, so now it's time for that final score. Based on the 3 criteria we have for grading, I gave it an 8 for the preservation of video game history. I gave it a 7 for overall entertainment value, and I gave it a 6.5 as to whether or not this is a must-have for your bookshelf or coffee table. So for the final score, it's an aggregate of the 3 scores that we have. It gets a 7.1. Playing with Power is a recommended book from the Nintendo PowerZone. It gets our official seal of quality. Guys, that's going to be it for this episode of Nintendo Power Book Club. Join us next month as we cover Blake J. Harris's Console Wars. It's a great book, and I got a great interview out of Blake J. Harris after reading it. Alright guys, it's time for me to let you go, but before I do, I gotta hit you up with these social media links. You can hit me up on Twitter at Nice1983. You can email me at thesplatzones@gmail.com. Check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/Nintendo PowerZone, all as one word. If you're a fan of the Nintendo PowerZone podcast, you can always download new episodes on iTunes, Google Play Music, and stream them on Stitcher Radio. But if you like watching the live version, you can check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/user/thearticle, THAARTICLE. Guys, that's gonna be it. Thank you so much for watching, and watch out for Amiibo Hunters on the prowl. Deuces.